Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And we are now joined once again by Nkem Kelly, and she is amazing for Mind Counseling, and she's here to talk about how she can help so many people out there, individuals, couples, you name it. Say hello, and please introduce yourself to our listeners.
Hi, thank you, Jill. My name is Nkem Kelly. I'm the owner of Mind Counseling PLLC in Houston, Texas. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, a licensed professional counselor, and a life coach.
Wow.
And I work with, people, like you said, individuals, couples, families.
Perfect. And you're based out of where?
Houston, Texas.
Perfect. But you work with people all over, correct?
Yes. So for therapy, I'm only licensed in the state of Texas, so I can only provide therapy services in
Okay.
Texas, but coaching, I can work with people, outside. Yes.
And speaking of coaching, I think that's what we wanted to get to today, correct?
Yes, yes, yes. I definitely wanted to do at least a conversation on coaching. And I really wanted to talk about coaching. I always like emphasizing that coaching is different from therapy, in the sense that, therapy is a licensor, meaning you go to school for years and years and years, you take a certification exam, and then you're licensed in the state to work. Coaching is more goal oriented, whether it be personal goals or professional goals. A good example I want to use is if someone is wanting to go back to school, such as myself, I took like a 10-year hiatus. I could have worked with a coach to kind of guide me on, how to transition back to school after 10 years of being out of the academic environment. And I kind of listed a few things that I usually would work with my clients, in coaching. If I could again use the example of, going back to school,
Yep.
I
Great
would
example.
ask, yes, I would ask, what the goal is, right? If someone calls and says, hey, I want coaching, the first question is always, okay, what's the goal?
Mhm.
Um, going back to the example of going back to school, you've been out of school for how long? Okay, what exposure did you have? Did you stop at high school? Did you do an associate's degree? Did you do a little bit of bachelor's? And we start exploring, like how we can navigate towards that goal. When I think of coaching, I think about plugging in an address in a GPS,
Yep.
right? When you plug it in, it tells you steps on how
Sure.
to get there,
Right turn, left turn. Yes.
Yes,
Point 4
exactly.
miles away. Okay, good.
Exactly. There's a pile up, the red line tells you there's an accident, then they give you an alternate route. So that's kind of how I think about coaching. What are the steps that we can, use to get to that goal? And, to even get to the step, we have to identify certain things that are kind of like obstacles.
Mhm.
So one of the things I like talking about is, distractions, right? Because, for example, my distraction in taking a 10-year hiatus, it's not necessarily a distraction, but it's life,
Yep.
right? You get married, you have kids,
That's big
you buy a house,
yeah.
you get a job. So what are those things that got in the way of you getting back to what your goal was, and where are you now in a position to navigate those to get back to that goal? Another good distraction that I like to talk about, especially in this day and age, is the phone, social media, you know, we're all trying to look at a motivational thing on YouTube, and an hour later, we're still scrolling or being distracted. So we want to talk about real things that could get in the way of those goals. And just thinking about the distraction of social media, as silly as this may sound, I talk with my clients about, okay, if it's going to be a distraction, we can't say don't do it,
Yeah.
but we can think about a tangible way of managing it. How can we manage it? What time can you allocate to it? Right? Can you give yourself 30 minutes? Can you give yourself an hour? And let's take it a step further. Can we set an alarm?
Mm.
Right? So after that hour it's over, it goes up. Okay, that's my social media break. Back to my goal.
Yep.
Right? So we
Gotta
talk about
to that. Yeah.
so we talk about, like real life solutions, to deal with the distractions so we can get back on track with our goals. Um, Another thing that I talk with my clients is about is fear. So one thing that we all deal with, regardless of what the goal is the fear of what if.
Yeah.
Um, and I heard an acronym a while back, and I love using this acronym, whether be it in therapy or in coaching. The acronym is FEAR. F is for false, E is for evidence, A is for appearing, and R is for real.
Okay.
So false, evidence, appearing, real.
Wow.
So whenever we want to achieve a goal, there's always that fear.
Hmm.
But if we think about that fear as false evidence appearing real, then we address the fear with, if this is a false evidence, what's the reality,
Yeah.
right? The fear keeps us stuck. My example, I use myself as an example. When I wanted to go back to school, that was 10 years later. I'd had two kids. I was older. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm older. What don't I know? That was the fear, right? That was the false evidence appearing real. But when I leaned into it instead of run away from it, I had to realize that I was older.
Mm-hmm.
I was wiser.
Wiser, smarter.
I didn't have the same distractions as I did when I was younger. I, I wasn't looking to party, and I was looking to get a career out of school this go around.
Yeah.
So the fear now became a strength,
Ah.
right? So instead of being afraid of going back to school, when I addressed it as a false evidence appearing real, I realized, you know what, I'm older, I'm wiser, I'm more focused. There's no distraction of partying or hanging out with friends. I really want to get a career out of this. Am I really afraid of that?
Yeah.
And the answer was no.
Hmm.
Um, so in changing the way we look at things or talking about things, then it gives us that encouragement to lean into it rather than run away from it. Um, and then another thing I talk with my clients about, what are the victories? Because right, we want to combat the fear with the victories. What are you doing right now that's working?
Hmm.
Right? I mean, the fact that you even thought about going back to school, that is a
Well, that's
start.
huge. Yeah.
Right? What are you doing that's working? Your job, for heaven's sakes. How long have you held that job? Right? And you're a mom. How many kids, do you have? That's time management. You're managing the job, you're managing kids. That's not easy.
Well,
So these are the
hardest job in the
victories.
world, Nkem.
The absolute hardest job in the world, right? So how are you managing all these things, right? And how can you use those skills? Because these are all skills you have.
Yeah.
How can you now bring it back to what you're about to do? How can you bring it back to this goal that you're about to tackle? Because these are all transferable skills,
Mm.
right? How can we bring it here? Um, and then another thing that I get excited asking my clients, and when I see those wheels turning, I get really excited. I ask, what are you thinking of doing but haven't done yet? And why? Right. So this goal you're about to tackle, what are you thinking of doing? That thought that keeps saying, I need to, I need to, I need to. Fill in that blank.
Yeah.
What do you need to do and why?
Yeah.
Right. And another way to think about it is, what is a radical idea that just may be crazy enough to work, but fear gets in the way of it. Fear gets in the way of you trying it.
Yeah.
Right. And in thinking about those crazy ideas that we just, oh my God, it's too crazy, it just may not work. I'm like, what if it does work?
That.
Right. And how can we start mapping out like the tangible steps to make these crazy idea
We
works?
talked about mindset before, but that's what it's about. The
Yes.
power of the mind and what it could do and
Mm-hmm.
keep us to that next level.
Yes, yes, because we are our own worst critic. We can talk ourselves out of the most brilliant ideas if we allow ourselves to.
Yeah.
So how can we start challenging our minds to, instead of run away from those great ideas, to encouraging ourselves to say, you know what if,
Yeah.
right? What if?
Think big.
Hmm.
But you also need some guidance sometimes because it's not easy on your own. Like you need accountability partners, as you were saying in your note.
Oh my goodness, accountability partners are gold. I mean, they are gold. Those friends or family who I mean, I have a friend who I tell her, I tell her she's jazzy. I mean, she texts me at the craziest time and she's like, okay, I know you're binge watching a show and you shouldn't be doing that right now. I'm like, do you have a camera somewhere that I don't know? I mean, because she always hits it and I love it. You know, I love that she knows what to say, when to say it, and how to say it to pull me back. And that's just a big part of, staying on your goal, telling someone, hey, I'm thinking about going back to school. I need you to check on me and follow up on me and encourage me when I'm down, or there are times when I may be freaking out, I just need someone to talk me off that ledge. So accountability partners are key, in coaching as well. So I always encourage clients to identify at least one person that could be that for them.
Well, plus you included, right? As a
Plus me, yes, 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 yes,
for the
yes.
sure.
hmm Yes. So when we've explored all these things, the distractions, the fears, false evidence appearing real, the victories, identify all those transferable skills, and then also thinking about, the things that we haven't tried yet and why, and then identifying at least one accountability partner. I always circle back to the goal,
Mhm.
right? So in the beginning, the goal is just this big thing out in the air, this scary stuff that, yes, I want to go back to school, but how? But now we've identified our distractions and how we can combat it, right? Now we've talked about our fear and how to lean into it instead of running away from it. Now we've identified, like the victories, the things that we've done successfully, and the skills that we have used in doing these things successfully, juggling work, married life, the kids, those skills, I call it management skills, right? How can you transition that into that goal, right? And how can you now ask your accountability partners to now help you towards those goals that you've identified? So when we circle back to the goal, we're looking at the goal as less scary because we've identified things. We've made it less scary by saying, okay, it's not as scary as it used to be. Now I have experience, I have management skills, I have victories, I have things that I've done successfully, and I'm older and wiser. Right now, how do I come back and address these goals? What steps do I need to start working towards these goals?
Great. And also, I know you need that commitment, right?
Yes. Oh my goodness gracious. Yes, the commitment is key. So in the step of in going back to the example of going back to school, one thing that I know that was helpful, my accountability partner, I mean, she is phenomenal. She
But
literally,
a friend
yes.
member or
She was actually a friend. She is a friend, I should say, because she told me, she said, okay, what are we gonna do? I said, I don't know. I haven't been in school in 10 years. Okay, we're gonna research. I'm like, what?
yeah.
So we researched. So that's usually the first step, at least depending on what the goal is, research. Okay, what do you need in this example to go back to school? So we had to research, okay, do you want to go back to what you were studying? That was an important thing for me because 10 years has passed. I very well may have changed my mind to transition from therapy to nursing.
Okay.
Right? So if you want to stay in that field, what do you need to do? Do you need to pull up your transcript and see what courses are still valid or what courses you need to retake? Right? Do you want to look at the options? Do you want to do online? How do you learn? Right? Some people learn better face to face. Some people learn better, in class. So which one do you want to do? Also, what's the application process, right? Like maybe email somebody, ask questions, what the deadlines are. And then another thing that I know we talked about, my accountability partner, I mean, she was great. She told me there are also scholarships are available because that was also a fear. Can I afford to go back to school?
How am I going to manage? Yes. Yeah.
Right? So you could email the financial aid department, say, hey, besides the FAFSA, do I qualify for some financial aid? So there are a lot of things we can research. And based on our research, we can start thinking about what commitment steps to take,
Got it.
right? Because now you have all the information to make that decision,
Wow.
to take that next step.
I love it.
you know.
I love it. So again, we're all talking about coaching today. Just to remind everyone who we're speaking with, Nkem Kelly, could you give us your website and contact information?
Yes, yes. My contact information is for the website is www.mindcounseling.com. Email address is mindcounseling@gmail.com, and the phone number is 361-878-8151.
Great. We're skipping our break today, just letting you know. So
Okay.
talk of coaching and
Yes.
benefits and some of the types of people that come to you for coaching. Give us a little more of that background if you don't mind.
Right. So I have different people who come to me for coaching. A lot of times I speak with like people transitioning like graduates from high school. Do I want to go into a 4-year college? Do I want to go into a trade school? Do I want to take a gap year? Right. So we literally explore these ideas. Okay, why do you want to do this? Why do you want to do this? What's the reasons behind it? Right. And what are the steps? If you want to take a gap year, what's your goal in that gap year? What do you want to achieve? And if you want to come back, we want to identify how to come back, right? Because a gap year, in my example, my gap year led to 10 years, right? So if you want to take a gap year, we want to identify, okay, if you want to come back, we have to at least start the application process. So you have a time to come back to say, August of next year, my gap year is over. I've traveled through Europe. I've explored, I've done whatever I want to do. But August of next year, I know that, I have already secured admission into a university. I've deferred my admission, right? So I'm working towards that year to come back. Right. And if it's someone transitioning, I also I'm trying to think of a good example, maybe someone who's been home, right? And the kids have now gone back to school and they decided, you know what, maybe I want to go back to school or maybe I want to start a business. Okay. So what is your passion?
Yeah.
Right? What businesses are you thinking of, opening? And, we can maybe list 3 and then look at the skills. We can also research, funding for it. We can research support systems, again, accountability partners. And sometimes I ask my clients to ask for feedback from their peers and their family, because sometimes your family know what you're great at.
Oh, yeah, they know.
And they're great resources. They can say, hey, you know what? That cake you made for Easter, oh my goodness, you could open like a cake shop. You probably may just think about it as something you do for family.
Yeah.
But that could be a great business idea that you never thought about as a business idea. So we could just explore ideas and then start saying, okay, this, on a scale of 1 to 10, which one is number 1? Which one is number 2? Which one is number 3? Which one do you see yourself going to work, right? Work the business and coming back happy.
Yeah.
Right. You want to go and come back and say, you know what? I can actually do that for free.
Yeah. It doesn't feel
Yeah.
like a job. It feels like
Mm-hmm.
passion.
Yes. What are you passionate about? What are you passionate about? What could you just go on and on and on about? And it still brings smile on your face, even when you're tired from doing it.
Yeah.
So just exploring different ideas, or people who are wanting to go to college, also studying skills. That's another one that I've worked here and there with students about. Okay, you're a kid, you're supposed to have fun in college, but how can we meet our goals while having college?
Yeah.
Right? So we kind of create like a calendar, right? So how can we work ahead, meet our deadlines, and still have fun?
Yeah.
Because going to college shouldn't, and as a mom here, my goal is you have to pass, but have fun. How can we do both? How can we go to college, have fun, so we know that the 4 years was well spent, but how can we also come out with that degree that we went to college for? So we talk about these things and we plan for them.
Amazing. I just want to point out mindcounseling.com. We're talking here today about how you can help as a coach, but also you do therapy. Now, let me ask you this. Do you do coaching for just individuals, or do you do coaching for couples as well?
I do both. I do, like, so individuals come for coaching and then couples come for coaching as well. So I mean, with counseling or coaching, it could be one or more than one.
Okay.
So I individualize it to suit whoever the client is.
Got it. All right.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Sorry. And to
Yeah.
interrupt our coaching session conversation. So people
Yes.
wanting to get coached on, well, anything in life. We're talking as an example, career, but there's
Mhm.
in life that people need coaching on. For example, could you elaborate on some?
So one thing that is near and dear to my heart is grief and loss, because that is an ongoing thing. For coaching, to be honest with you, for grief and loss, I do more counseling than coaching, but there are times when there's some coaching in counseling.
Got it.
Right? So for grief and loss, I talk with my clients kind of sort of, like I said, there's this fine line between the therapy and the coaching, but sometimes I coach my clients to think and interact with things differently. Right. Sometimes, if someone is experiencing grief and loss, it feels overwhelming. At least that's the description that I've heard over and over again. It feels you feel like you're alone. Some people are not wanting to share it. It may be too heavy, but sometimes the coaching aspect come into play because sometimes this word accountability partner is such a key component of it, right? Just that person to partner with you to say, you know what, I don't mind. It may be heavy, but I don't mind. It's just like a table. I don't mind carrying this end, so you can carry that end,
Yeah.
right? I don't mind dropping your kid off at school or picking up so you can rest,
Mhm.
right? I don't mind doing the grocery shopping, just that person partnering alongside you so you can have a moment of respite from that because it's a heavy thing to go through. So coaching can be done in other areas of life. And that's one thing that I think just jumped to mind when you asked.
What about time management, organizational skills?
Oh my goodness. Yes, absolutely. Oh my goodness. My planner has colors. I have.
Got a notepad. I have everything on papers, and I'm like, wait, what am I doing? I need to help me.
So I was introduced by a planner, and this is a lifesaver right here. I open a blank page, and this to me is gold because without it, I have to look at it and say, what day is it again? And what time am I talking with Jill? And believe it or not, after we finish talking, I put a check mark beside it, or else I'm like, did I already talk to her, or was that last week?
I can't find it because all the papers fall off the desk.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. So time management, that is definitely one thing I work with people on. I work with, oh my goodness, planners and calendars, and we color code stuff. So if you see pink, maybe pink is for your personal appointments, and blue is for, work, and green is for finances. So when you see a color, you know what it is. So we do work with
I
that.
also think then it's important to put it on paper, not just in our phones.
Yes, not in our phone. Um, there's some people who work great with phones, but one thing that I recommend with the phone is set an alarm. And when that alarm goes up, name it. Because if that alarm goes up, it just says alarm, what is it for? Right? So one of my alarms is pick up the kids at school. So when it goes up, oh, okay, it's time to go pick up the kids. So be specific if you want to put it on your phone, label the alarm. When it goes up, you know what you're supposed to do. Right. So people work different ways. I'm tangibles. I like writing things down.
Good, me too.
Yes, yes.
Mentioned about the color coding. That's something I never thought of either, but that could definitely be more helpful and beneficial. Even highlight it, right? With
Yes, 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 yes. Highlight it. My thing is, like I create a list, and when I do it, I highlight it because the highlighted thing means that task is done. If it's not highlighted, I move it to the next day.
on it.
So whatever is not highlighted on that list gets moved to Tuesday, and I move it to the top of the list. So that gets done before my to-do list on Tuesday.
Using pen on this, or is it a pencil where you can erase? Pen.
Either or. Some people say pen. I've heard a friend describe it. She says pen is too much commitment for her, so she prefers pencils. I like pen because then I cross it out and I feel like a little bit of victory. I did that, right? So it depends on the person.
Thank you. And what else did you want to talk about with coaching as far as your coaching services?
So thank you so much for saying that because I totally forgot. I had two quotes when I was kind of thinking about and preparing for this particular conversation. I found two quotes that were very helpful. I think would be helpful to share. The first one is the great calamity is not to have failed, but to have failed to try, right? And I'll read it again. It says, the great calamity is not to have failed, but to have failed to try. I like this quote because there are a lot of brilliant ideas that we may never know because people never tried.
Yeah.
Right? There are a lot of great books that we will never read because people didn't write them. So we need to start tapping into those ideas and trying to do these ideas. The second one is, I'm like that does not help anything. I can be different does. Again, back to the human self, right? Oh, I'm used to doing this a certain way. I don't want to try something different. What if in trying something different, you actually get a different result that you want, right? So my encouragement always is to try something different, at least one thing different a day, to see what different outcome, what positive different outcome you can come about by trying that different thing.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing that. And how can we get in touch with you if we have any questions? How does it work? Can someone contact you? Do you get a session? Is there a charge for the session, or how can we work with you?
All right. So if you go to mindcounseling.com, my phone number is there. So it's www.mindcounseling.com. You can call or email me at mindcounseling@gmail.com. I call people back or email back, and then we talk about, what they want to do. Is it therapy? Is it coaching? And then after that, and it's the consultation is complimentary. We have a conversation to determine, what route you want to go. And then we can talk about scheduling.
Perfect. All right. So how can we reach out to you? Give us your phone number, email, website, however, other forms of contact you want to give. Social media.
Yes, social media, yes. So I am on Instagram. It's Mind Counseling, and then Mind Counseling, www.mindcounseling.com. The email address is mindcounseling@gmail.com, and the phone number is 361-878-8151.
Perfect. Well, thank you for your time today. As always, it's a pleasure speaking with you, and don't believe everything you think.
All right. Thank you. Yes. Thank you so much. It was really a pleasure talking with you as well. Thank you.
Again, and of course, to everyone else, stay tuned. More of our shows coming right up after this quick break. Don't go anywhere.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.